The recording had been playing for 47 minutes. 47 minutes of nothing. Thyra's vine tips hovered over the amplification glyph, trembling. She pressed it. The silence peeled back in layers, magnified 10,000 times over, and from somewhere beneath 3 centuries of static, a sound emerged. Steady, patient, unmistakable, a single human heartbeat. Stories like this remind us why we keep digging through the past. If you're new here, come along for the ride. We'll be here tomorrow with another one. The pollen index in the archive garden had been high that morning, thick enough to taste on her petals. When Thyra first pulled the file tagged SEC Tor 7 Islands, FNUNX Pellined, she almost hadn't. The archive request had come from a counselor interested in historical communications failures, something about improving emergency protocols, routine work for a Bloom historian. Thyra's flower head carried 17 years of accumulated text across its petals. Records literally grew on her body, layer by layer, each season adding new script to the older growth beneath. She was, in a very real sense, a living library, and living libraries did not get excited about 300-year-old comm logs. So, when she opened the first file and found nothing but silence across every human channel in the sector, she assumed corruption, bad data, archive rot. Then she cross-referenced. 300 alien battleships had been positioned across Sector 7 at the time. Thyra pulled their communications logs next, and the contrast nearly made her petals seal. While every human channel flatlined into silence, the alien fleet channels erupted. Commanders argued. Tacticians speculated. Intelligence officers scrambled to interpret what a species-wide communications blackout meant. The consensus reached in under 4 minutes was unanimous. Collapse, internal failure, weakness. The fleet advanced. Thyra let her vines settle against the archive wall, feeling the slow creak of older records shifting beneath the surface. Around her the garden hummed with bioluminescent light, soft blue-green pulses that matched the rhythm of growing things. She pulled the next file, and the next. 47 minutes of human silence filled her research chamber like something physical, like humidity, like pressure before a storm. In those records she found no distress calls, no fragmented transmissions, no evidence of system failure. Every human ship, station, and outpost had functioning communications equipment. Every single one chose not to use it, which meant the silence was a decision. She found the signal buried in a secondary archive, almost missed it entirely. A single broadband pulse, origin unknown, transmitted once across the entire sector at the exact moment the silence began. It carried no words, no tactical data, no encryption. The Nelvori archivists had ever been able to crack. Just a tone, one tone, and every human in the sector stopped talking simultaneously. Thyra's petals tightened. She had studied 19 species communication protocols in her career. She knew what coordinated silence looked like. It looked like prey going still in tall grass. It looked like the moment before a vine strikes. If you've been with us for a while, you know where this is going. If you haven't, stay close. Except humans were not prey. That was the part the 300-ship fleet had gotten wrong. Thyra found the after-action reports next, filed by 17 different species, and every single one described the same thing from a different angle of devastation. The humans hadn't panicked. They hadn't shut down. During those 47 minutes of silence, while 300 warships advanced on what they believed was a broken enemy, every human vessel in the sector was calculating, plotting firing solutions, mapping fleet positions, sharing data through methods the Allied fleet couldn't detect or intercept. Patience. That was the word Thyra kept circling back to as she read deeper into the after-action files. Not aggression, not brilliance, patience. Her assistant, a young Nelvori whose petals still carried mostly blank space, leaned over her shoulder and noted that humans had a phrase for this kind of waiting. The translator rendered it as "hold my beer." Thyra stared at the translation for a long moment. The assistant added helpfully that the linguistic database could not determine what fermented grain had to do with genocide prevention. Thyra moved on. She found the persistence data next, buried in a xenobiology annex someone had cross-linked to the tactical file. Humans, it turned out, had evolved as pursuit predators, not fast ones. Their ancestors had chased prey not by outrunning it, but by refusing to stop, following wounded animals across open ground for hours, sometimes days, at a pace no other species on their planet could sustain. A fit human could outrun a horse if the distance was long enough. The file noted this without commentary, as if it were unremarkable. Thyra's binds coiled tighter against the wall. She was beginning to understand something about those 47 minutes that the original analysts had missed entirely. The silence was not a failure of communication. It was not even coordination. Not really. It was a hunt. The oldest kind, the human kind. Settle into the rhythm, match the distance, wait for the prey to tire, to stumble, to make the mistake it cannot take back. And the fleet had stumbled. The strike reports were clinical. After exactly 47 minutes, every human vessel in Sector 7 acted within the same 11-second window. 300 battleships, spread across 4 star systems, discovered simultaneously that they were already inside human firing solutions, already flanked, already targeted. The calculations had been running the entire time, silent and patient as a heartbeat. One of the files contained a fragment of recorded human speech, pulled from a patched transmission log. A voice, steady and unhurried, referenced something ancient. Our species once walked into frozen wastelands for months to reach an enemy. We don't need ships to be relentless. Thyra's petals sealed halfway. The text on their surface disappeared beneath the fold. And now, back in her research chamber with the amplified recording still filling the humid air, that heartbeat meant something different. She had found the source. One human, stationed on a monitoring outpost at the sector's edge, had not evacuated with the others when the silent signal came. Every other human moved to tactical positions. This one stayed, alone. For 47 minutes, sitting in a chair in an empty station, they counted. Every enemy ship that passed within sensor range, every heading, every speed, every formation shift. They broadcast the data the only way they could without breaking the silence, encoded in the rhythm of their own heartbeat, variations in pace so subtle that 3 centuries of analysts had heard only a steady pulse. Thyra had almost missed it herself, but once the pattern key was applied, the heartbeat unfolded into coordinates, targeting data, fleet positions updated in real time, carried on nothing but the beating of a human heart. The person in that chair had no weapons, no ship, no way out if the enemy found them. They had a pulse and a sensor screen, and that had been enough. Thyra sat in the archive garden for a long time after the recording ended. Her vines had loosened from the wall. Her petals remained half-sealed, text visible on one side, hidden on the other. Around her, the living library creaked and grew, adding new layers the way it always did, slowly, in silence. She could not determine whether what she had found was beautiful or something else entirely. The recording device sat dark on the table. Somewhere inside it, 47 minutes of quiet held a heartbeat that had ended a war. She did not replay it. She did not seal the file. She left it open, and the humid air settled over everything like a question that would keep growing whether anyone answered it or not. That heartbeat sat in silence for 47 minutes and changed everything. What would you have done in that chair? Subscribe so you're here when the next story finds its way out of the archive.